Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to another Smarter Destiny podcast, where this time we have a power couple. It's like the first time we've done this. I'm so excited by it, a little bit nervous. We've got Meaghan and AJ, and combined they're awesome, separate they're awesome, combined they're like super awesome, you know, where like 1 + 1 = like 77. It's kind of that situation today. And so we've been speaking off air, and I'm really excited to actually get some of the little nuggets that we've sort of just, you know, touched upon actually on air for you guys to hear them. Together they run Praxis Metrics, which is a epic service that we're going to drill into as well in the podcast. But essentially, it helps you know where the hell your money's coming from, right? So that you know what's working for you and what's not working for you in this world where there's so many different channels out there. So I could go on and on and on, but I think it's better just to hear from the special guests. Meaghan, AJ, how the hell are you?
We are fantastic, especially after that introduction.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
I'm excited. The excitement is real, folks.
And to be your first power couple, that's a huge deal.
That's a big honor.
It's a huge deal. Thank you.
I feel the honor's all mine. I feel the honor for you guys. So, as always, when we're interviewing awesome people, you know, sometimes just you've got so many options, so many different areas that we can delve into. We can start with. Sometimes just finding that first one, right, so that we can just move forward and get to know, you know, the people in front of us and understand why they're so good. Sometimes that first point can be difficult, but I think in this instance, I would just like to know a little bit about you guys and then maybe how you came together, and then we'll delve into it from there. Does that work?
I think so, because
Perfect.
like it is kind of like 1 and 1 comes together. It's like we say 11, but your math is great. 77 works. The way we came together is really unique, and we're also not just a couple, but we're a couple that actually owns a company together. There's a little dynamics there that we can jump into. So you want to kick off your part of the story?
You can do your background first.
All right, so I've been an entrepreneur all my life since I was a wee little lad, right? Like 10 years old, I was knocking on doors, selling anything I could. AJ's Odd Job service is what it was, because I didn't want to go do chores for mom and dad, but literally the only thing I knew how to do was go do chores. So I put a flyer together, went around the neighborhood, and just did anything for like, I think I started charging, it was like $5 an hour. People were like, well, that's all right, $5 an hour. I was like, yep, I want to get paid. So I did that. Then I started, my dad was, I grew up around the farm. And so I was around agriculture all the time. And I had all these amazing fruits and vegetables. So I ended up like going and picking that out of our garden and then selling that around the neighborhood, using my little cute brother and sister in a red radio wagon, pulling them behind me and having them go push on the doorbell. Best marketing team ever, you know, cute little faces, and selling the fruits and vegetables. So we did that for a little while. So it was like kind of like summertime, entrepreneurial bug really kicked up. And then I got into computers. Then I got into technology and really loving helping people with computers, building them out, like being like a young Michael Dell. So my background was like love people, love technology, and wanted to be a next Michael Dell. But then I discovered, you know, software programming and the online internet and this amazing place where we could reach so many people at scale. And so my journey kind of moved through high school out of computers into building websites, understanding what online marketing is, which is where Ryan Dice and Perry Belcher and all those guys came into my life way back when digital marketers started. It's got to be 10, 11, 12 years ago now, probably longer than that. And what I started realizing was that I loved having reach, but I loved media. I loved connecting with people instead of being behind a computer screen. And so I started a couple of different publications, like an actual magazine, a physical print magazine in Long Beach, California. After exiting that, went into more like just online marketing and helping my dad with agriculture, and then really getting over to like golf. Before that, I was like wanted to be like a young Tony Robbins. So I had Life Force, and I was doing online like speaking and kind of coaching. And then it came to Golf Fuel with my buddy Josh and Kyle, and getting into this online supplement game. And I learned so much from Josh and so much from our team that's really where I realized I was more data driven than I had realized. And the way we went about marketing and tracking everything was like natural for me. So after Golf Fuel, it was then like, oh, well, people need funnels and sales funnels and webinar funnels and all this other marketing stuff I knew how to do. And then I started my own agency. So that kind of brings me up in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I like
So that we're going to pause his story there, and then we'll continue it later on, like a tease.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah,
I feel
cliffhanger.
teased. Yeah, I like that.
So my background was the total opposite. So I grew up one of 8 kids, single mom raising us, and so I didn't really know what that entrepreneurial world looked like. I lived in suburbia. My family was very much like, hey, you just get a job and your goal is to work your way up to management. So I had never heard the word entrepreneurial, but I knew that I had to pay my way through college. So during college, I went and sold encyclopedias door to door in like Nashville, Tennessee, and in Ohio and West Virginia, and where they still buy encyclopedias door to door. And so doing that, like I worked for a big direct sales organization. And that got me exposed to, really kind of running your own business-ish, but still having the support of a bigger organization. But I really never considered myself a business owner or anything like that.
But I do want to say how awesome it is, and I always say that, because she was knocking on doors, selling encyclopedias in a Google world where people just look stuff up. I think that's awesome, and she was really, 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 really good at it.
True.
I gotta say that.
But that led me into, kind of coaching and consulting sales organizations. So I did that for several years, and then fast forward, so we end up meeting. And I was like, man, I really don't understand what it is you do, because in my sales organization, we would literally cold call people, 130 calls a day in order to sell them. And then I would knock on doors every single day selling the books. So I was like, I don't understand. Too. Oh yeah, I would split test all the time.
Not like the real life split testing. Not Google optimized, but like this.
I would go to different doors, and I had sticky notes all over my steering wheel, and I'd try one approach and see how many doors I got slammed in my face. And then I'd try a different one, see how many doors I got slammed in my face, and be like, all right, this one seems to win. And then I'd slowly put together my script accordingly. So we ended up meeting. We started dating first and foremost. And I was like, I don't really understand marketing. Obviously, I know you can do ads all over the place, but I don't really know that world. I was like, so I want to understand what you do. And he really specialized in funnel building rather than the e-commerce at that time. He was building out funnels. So we had a buddy of ours. He hired AJ's agency to build out this funnel. I was like, cool, let me kind of watch start to finish. So AJ puts together the landing pages, sales pages, order pages, all of this stuff. And he's like, you want to see what we do? All right, ready? We're sending off this email. And boom, they sent off this email to their entire list, which was 500,000 people. And we watched all the numbers, and it was like, oh, we've got 100,000 people on the landing page. Oh, we've got this and this. And I would just watch it go ding, ding, ding. And then it was like ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. And within a week, that funnel had made like $1.2 million.
Wow.
And I cried. I bawled. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I've been reaching out to people one at a time for 8 years, and you just reached 500,000 people with a click of a button. I was like, that's it. I'm done. I have to learn this whole digital world. And so I basically left my job at the coaching and consulting firm and came to work for AJ. And I was like, I'll just do anything. I'll start, managing the books. I'll be a project manager. I'll just learn the weeds of the business. And then I was very systematized, so I helped them put in some processes, and that's kind of how we started working together.
But it was a defining moment.
It was. It was a huge watershed moment.
Sunset was coming down. It had rained earlier in the day. We just went out on the deck out here and just had a moment of true connection and understanding. And I got to understand from my side what more of her journey was and what her frustrations are, but also what her goals and aspirations are. And then to be able to be a part of that, there's a whole nother world where you get to play, and to be a pathway to that felt really amazing as a couple, but also ooh, what are we going to be able to accomplish? Because I'd always wanted to have a power couple relationship. Not that I called it that, but it's I wanted to be with somebody that finished my sentences, helped me get there, and wasn't just it wasn't separate life. It was let's go conquer the world together, and it becomes the Rocketeer, a rocket on our backs, as opposed to just a normal life. And so that was that moment for us that was there's something really, really cool here.
And we're very purpose driven too. And so one of our big, goals is to have legacy and to be able to have really big impact on the world. And so that for me was a huge aha. It's I don't have to just impact people that I can physically reach and touch. I can have a much broader impact. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
So we started working together in the agency, and then after a little bit of time, we realized that there was a lot of opportunity within that. And one of the frustrations in the business was that we were responsible for all of our clients. We had 27 clients at one point, and all of them, we had to do all of their reporting. We had to tell them what split tests were working, what the numbers were, what was working and what wasn't working, right? Because they're spending all their money with us and entrusting us with this, so they wanted proof. And so we had one of our smartest guys who was reduced down to report generation. Literally, he would log into Facebook, log into all these systems because none of them talk to each other. And he'd go and pull out the numbers, put them in a spreadsheet that was nice and even, and would show them the conversion rates. And then we'd send that out every 3 days to these 27 clients. So his job was basically data entry. And we were like, it's 2008, whatever, 14
at the time,
there has to be a better way. And so we ended up started researching internal solutions that would solve our problems. And that's what got us into data. We started realizing that there were ways to automate ETL, our data all together, so that every single system would talk to each other automatically without us touching it. And then it would be able to do all these calculations for us without us touching it. And then we could turn it visual and send it out to all of our clients without us touching it in real time. And we were like, oh.
Yeah. Basically getting out of spreadsheet hell.
Yeah.
That's what we call it, right? Get out of spreadsheet hell is like that first step.
So we did that internally to solve our own needs and problems. And then what happened is we just basically, we rolled it out to all of our clients, and they were like, oh, what is this? I've never seen my business this way. It's so organized. It's so automatic. It's clean. It's accurate. Can you do this for my other aspects? Can you bring in my shipping, my inventory, my finance, so that we can see really the holistic business? And AJ, being the entrepreneur that he is, just said, yes.
In fact, we have a package for that. How much is it? It's at $1,500. Great, sign me up. Okay, cool.
Then we have to go find and hire somebody who could do that skill.
That was just the audit, but it was out of necessity, right? We saw that where we wanted to go was to build a life blueprint for us to allow us to travel, work remote, and build an amazing team and company that didn't require us to be the smartest people in the room. Checkbox. Secondly, it's like, well, this is a huge need. Nobody really has this data stuff figured out except for the big companies up in big data that enterprise are spending millions of dollars a year. So we're like, well, how do we bridge this gap? This is going to be fun. This is what we want to do, and then hire smarter people to help us grow, scale this faster.
Yeah, so that was the birth of Praxis. So that was our little brainchild. And then that was our rule of thumb, just hire people smarter than us. So then we started hiring all the data scientists, the dashboard engineers, the operations managers, right? We started putting all of those people in place. And then what was just an incubated little, division of our company became a full-fledged data agency. And now that's what we spend all of our time doing. So we shut down the marketing agency, and now we're all into BI. It's fun.
Wow.
And wake surfing.
And wake surfing. All right, so we're gonna get into all of that, and that's an amazing separate story. See, that's where I almost got thrown off. Right, I've got two people in front of me. I can't say story. It's stories, right? It's stories that merged in beautiful harmony. So I've got some questions from that I'd like to delve into. First one, I'm curious, of all of the podcasts, this is to Meaghan, of all of the podcasts, all of the post-it notes that you had over your steering wheel, and all of your approaches, like I realized probably back then there wasn't really many Teslas, but for example, in my head I'm like, I probably wouldn't knock on the door of a Tesla owner to say, hey, do you want to buy an encyclopedia? In my head, right, knowing nothing about the industry, the biz, right? What did you find, what springs to mind as a great technique for selling encyclopedias in a modern age?
It's all about knowing your audience and giving them the tools that they need. So you think about an encyclopedia, and a lot of people think, well, you can just look that stuff up online, right? But what you don't think about is the child's experience, right? So there are children today that are stuck within their grade level, stuck within these classes, forced to learn whatever they need to learn for that one class. So a lot of people just say, well, I'm going to use these encyclopedias for this report as a reference, right? But instead of using it like that, it's using it as a gateway for that child to have deeper understanding into the things that they're passionate about, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of students, so the Tesla owners, those were my best friends.
Oh.
I'm called a big brick girl. So a lot of my friends, they did really well with the less educated, because the less educated, you have to think about this, their parents want a better life for their kids, and they don't have the knowledge or the skill sets to help their kids with their homework. So the kids have to learn themselves, and they have to have resources. And so by having these resources in the house, it's empowering their children to get a better education than they had. And so a lot of our friends did really well in the lower markets. For me, I didn't want to really target that demographic. I really wanted to go with the big brick. And the big brick kids are the opposite. They're the ones that are studying, they're doing the AP classes, right? And they're the ones that are hungry for more, but then they're held back in school because their classmates aren't at the same level as them. And so they want to go ahead. They want to study further. They like, that was who I was, like, in middle school, I was the one in the library running the trigonometry books because I was like, oh, I want to do this and I want to push myself. And so it's giving them the resources to learn themselves at home in a nice, clear way rather than having to go and find, because you never know what you're going to find on the internet, right? And so these are tried and true and proven. So there was different sales pitches for who you were selling to. So it was all about collecting the information up front, asking them the right questions to see if their kid was falling behind and they needed these to get ahead, or if they were so far behind their potential that they wanted these to catapult them.
Wow.
Did that answer your question?
It definitely did. AJ. Yes. So I can definitely tell that you must have sold a lot of these. Did you actually hand them over at the time? Like, because you must have like forearms like Popeye. Like, in order
oh my gosh,
to, like,
yeah.
Lift
my poor
over.
Little Mitsubishi Galant was weighed down so much the wheels rubbed out the wheel well because it was just fully loaded with encyclopedias. The whole trunk, the whole back. I was riding low.
So like when you pulled into like at home at the end of the day, like people could tell if you had a good day or a bad day just by how many sparks are coming out of the back or something.
Exactly.
I like that. And so so at some point you guys crossed paths. Like how did you meet?
Well, we like to say the universe was trying to bring us together several times, but we have some dear friends, AJ and Rory, Jason and Denise, several other people, and our dear friend Lauren. All of us, like, we're trying to get us together on a couple different dates here in Austin. So we eventually met in Austin, but it was at a restaurant.
He was dating somebody else, and they were all trying to replace her with me.
To get us together. But I didn't get her number that night. We didn't trade information. We just fell in love in a very unique way. Neither of us had that level of knowing at that point in our lives. But then like 2 or 3 months went by, and I wanted to be out of that other relationship and do it right. And then we just saw each other out.
Yeah, we just kept getting brought back together in different circumstances with different people. And then when it was the right time, then it was on like Donkey Kong.
And we had 136 some mutual friends on Facebook and didn't know it. Like we were so close to each other, but it wasn't the right timing, and timing is so important there.
Yeah. So then, we heard about each other in April. We finally met in person in September. Our first date was in October. We were boyfriend, girlfriend by December. We moved in by February, and then we had a business together by March.
It was fast. When you know, you know.
Yeah, it was very easy and effortless was our mantra.
Like you said, when you know, you know. And so you said it was September, October, and so on. Of what year?
2014. Yeah.
2014. So it's been about 4.5, almost 5 years.
I like that, and that was good that you both knew the date. And so, AJ, you said we've got to the point now where we finish each other's sentences. Now, my listeners, my dear listeners. They definitely want to test this, I'm sure. So, Meaghan, could you just throw out a sentence but cut it short? See, and let's test this out.
After a long day, the only thing I want AJ to bring me is.
Only thing you want me to bring you is.
Like newlyweds.
Well, there's massage. There's. Wine. There's mainly ice cream.
Yeah, wine and ice cream.
Yeah, so ice cream is her thing. Okay. So, because that's there's finishing sentences, but then there's setting me up to have. There's options of things. It depends on her stress level.
Yeah.
If it's a nuclear day, ice cream is gonna wipe everything out. Sometimes she's just just drink this glass of wine first. Mm-hmm. Then I'll go get the ice cream.
I'm going to sedate you and then we'll talk, type thing.
Yes.
Okay. So exactly. I think the answer then was a tray full of stuff that I like. A tray loaded with.
Yes.
If you want to get more technical, we understand the love languages and we're very good at this. Actually, we have data behind this. But I know her love languages. It's service and quality time. slightly becoming gifts in our relationship, which was not normal in the beginning. And she knows mine. So I know that when she's up here, Disney movie, she's like chilling out, singing along, and then some ice cream or massage or me just taking out the trash, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's knowing, it's not knowing just like finishing the sentences, it's really knowing what that person really needs. And I think I got it pretty well dialed in.
Good job.
I think you could. So let's just try that just one more time, then we're going to move on. Let's try it the other way around. AJ, your chance here. Do you want to half finish a sentence for me? Or start
half finish?
I feel like we're on newlyweds.
This is fun. I like this.
It's fun.
We're going to do this for the rest of the podcast.
Yeah. This is such valuable information. No, we'll get into that. Right.
One of the things that I most enjoy in the mornings is
meditation and journaling.
Yeah, nailed it.
Nailed it. Boom. Meaghan loves you more.
Yeah. Did you see that? Speed of response, accuracy of answer. Done.
Thanks, Martin. Appreciate it. Live on the podcast.
Live on the
crushed.
It's all good, guys. It's truly when you see something so special like in front of him. The guys are listening. Definitely, I recommend that you check out the video version of this interview, because when you're actually experiencing this, it's definitely worth doing it. Right. Anyway, let's change tact a little bit here, because as I said, we want to know about your story. We want to know about the whys behind the decisions that you make, and so let's move forward. So you've met, you're dating, and at what point in the timeline, Meaghan, did you say I'll be your intern or your project manager or in the weeds? Were you already dating by this point, or?
Yeah, so we were already dating, and I'd say we'd been together. Well, gosh, we'd lived together for about 6 weeks or so, I'd say.
I thought it was a little bit longer than that, honestly. There's little conversations, but then something doesn't happen, and you were in betwing leaving.
It was pretty close though. It was
2 to 3 months, I'd say. Yeah.
Like that. Okay, and the first time you start working together, is this under the name of Praxis Metrics straight away, or is this a different agency?
It was AJ's agency.
So Yager Media Group. I just had it for a number of years, and we had everything underneath that. But it was really more of a conversation of, we know we want to work together. We know there's a really good fit. Hey, I could use help on the finance side, and I could really use help on my project management and accountability. She's awesome at that. We're on a visionary integrator level. She's stronger than I am on integrator. Though I can do that stuff, right? As entrepreneurs, we got to figure out where are we strong, where are we not. And she came in and right.
I'm a detail-oriented person, and he's more of the creative, kind of 50,000-foot view. And so, even when we started working together, it was very clear delineation of roles and responsibilities, just because of skill sets.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And do you guys know what your personality types are? Like your Myers-Briggs personality types? Yeah. Do they complement each other well in there as well?
They're polar opposite.
Very much. We like to say, we're the each other's other half of the brain, right? She's the other half of my brain. We can finish each other's sentences, do all that, but we have very different roles and skill sets, and that's super important to know. So we've done almost all of the personality tests and the behavioral tests and other things that are even more expensive, just to learn about how we think, even how our brains are wired. We're very different.
We've done brain scans.
The things on your head. We've gone deep into, use the word biohacking because everybody knows what it is, but it's more about understanding the data that drives you. Who are we from a genetic, blood, and brain level as individuals in love,
then as business partners.
As business partners. So we're pretty data driven in all of that, but it's been fascinating to see how I recover from stress differently than she recovers from stress. In the beginning, it was very, very weird. And in the beginning, you're still trying to figure out, even when you live with each other and you're in love, it's how do we do this dance? So we used a lot of that to help guide us.
Well, that sounds super interesting. So could you talk us through when you're actually doing brain scans and so on to understand stress recovery? What does that kind of experiment or test look like?
Ooh,
it looks like something from the Matrix. You literally have this brain cap on. There's all this gel, and then they put these nodes everywhere on your brain, every one inch or so.
Yeah, all over.
And then they basically put you through the blood
HRV.
Yeah.
HRV test.
But on the blood or on the brain scan, basically what they did is they'd hook AJ up, and then they'd give him 2 minutes of complete calm, rest, recovery. And then they'd put him through 2 minutes of absolute stress. So that stress could be anything from, count backwards from 3,000 by 7 and go. And then you're like, right? Right?
And you're trying to
so
stay
2
calm.
minutes, and they're just judging you, staring at you, and then stop and recover. And then you're like, okay, and then you have to recover, right? So 2 minutes go by, and then they're like, all right, now recall out loud your most traumatic experience. Go. And
In
then,
detail.
Yeah, in detail, out loud to this stranger. So your heart rate's all up, you're sweating, like all of this stuff, and then they're like, and stop. And so they put you through all of these stresses and calms for a long time.
It's about 10 to 15, 20, probably about 20
It feels
minutes.
like 3 hours.
It does.
Yeah.
And then they go through and they measure all of the brain activity, the different places in the brain where you're turning them on, right? The prefrontal, et cetera. So AJ did his, I did mine, and then we get a call and she starts to go through everything.
Yeah, this is like a brain scientist. Like she's looking at our data,
super cool.
and we get to see our data too. She's like, all right, I'm going to tell you what this means. And it was looking at the blood flow, the changing from the prefrontal cortex, right? Like all of that.
Activity.
So we've got both of ours next to each other.
Yeah, going through these experiences, and it was fascinating. This bastard, so they put him into these stressful states, and the brain beautifully lights up, and it's beautiful, and it's all of this stuff, and then it says, okay, calm now, and then it all goes to this nice calm blue.
So spike, stress, recover, right?
Yeah.
Spike, recover.
And so his brain would go, red, yellow, little pieces like here or there, and then they'd all go back to this nice calm blue, like theta brainwave, right? And then throughout the thing, that's exactly his whole thing. Spikes and valleys, and then at the end, he's just totally calm. Mine was a freaking bloodbath. Basically what would happen is I'd start calm, they'd put me through this stress level, my brain would turn on and activate, and then it would be time to recover, and my brain would stay at that same stress level. And then they'd put me through more stress, and now my stress level didn't go from 10% or 0 to 10, it went from 10 to 20. And then the next time, 20 to 30. So by the end, there was this beam of red, purple, like
Right
energy
here, right
coming
down
out of the top of my skull, and I was not calm. And she was like, so what this means is that AJ can handle stress well. You handle stress poorly. It's like, you never recover. And so, like, in our relationship, it made a huge difference because at the end of the day, AJ wants to go and better himself. He wants to go and listen to podcasts, learn something, watch a TED Talk. At the end of the day, I'm like, if I hear one more thing, I'm going to explode. And so in the beginning, it was very difficult because we were trying to adapt to each other and not let each other down. But once we found that out, we were able to then see, okay, here are the different steps we need to recover, or the different things he needs to be stimulated. And it allowed us to take then action steps to change our reality to adapt to, our physiology.
Yeah, and I want to add to that in the beginning, it was like, how you sort of kind of do things for the other person because they want to do it. Like, for example, she'd want to watch some Disney movies, whatever, and just kind of like chill out for the day. I'm like, that's interesting. I mean, I like Disney, but I don't really want to go do that. But then I would ask her to go like, hey, let's go just sit and work on NLP or do this and that. And I knew she would want to, but sometimes she wasn't wanting to. So she was just kind of doing that to appease me. So there's this back and forth. But once we understood how that brain activity is different, now I understand I can go do my thing. You can do your thing. That's fine. We'll come back together here later tonight. But it was an understanding of, oh, the pressure's off. Like, I get it. And she gets it. It wasn't oh, why doesn't she want to hang out with me more thing. It was like less emotion. It's more like the data is telling me 100% she needs to chill out. But sometimes then she would choose to come hang out with me, and I would choose to just kind of sit and watch that with her, if that's the way we were going to decompress that time at that time. So that data-driven brain test was huge for just one piece of our relationship there. And that's, you can see how that would work in other areas of our life.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, like you said then, the taking the pressure off. It's like, oh my God, we don't want to spend 24 hours a day together doing the exact same thing. That must mean that there's a problem. Understanding that's quite incredible. And so then what is the name of these brain tests if people wanted to check this out, like in their area?
Oh gosh. I don't remember it, but we can send it to you.
I mean,
stress brain chest.
So there's a lot of different types. Like this was an actual this was an actual, I don't know the name of it. It's not like the Muse.
But we did it at Apeiron Center
Apeiron
for Human Performance.
Yeah.
They've got a location in Austin and Asheville.
Yeah, and there are geneticist doctors. But
they've got partners all over the world too.
Yeah, so Apeiron, Apeiron, Apeiron Wellness Centers.
Nice, I like that. And so I've got a fork of questions here. There's two different ways. We're going to do both of them, but you can choose the order. That's the game, right? So we've got question or fork number one. I'd like to know, or I'm keen to understand, one or two or three of your best advice for other entrepreneur power couples that are out there, or other entrepreneurs that are coexisting whilst running a business. That's fork number one. Fork number two, which you can choose in either order, aside from this brain test, because I'm super into biohacking myself, what other sort of biohacking, life hacking-esque things do you thoroughly recommend? And you can take those in whatever order you want.
Whatever order. What do you want?
Ooh, I think the first one is really helpful for people, because there's a lot of people out there that.
Well, and I think I want to delineate too, because I think it adds a different dynamic when you're working with a partner, because there's just, you're with them all the time outside of the business. But I think that it also it works even if it's just your business partner, right? That person that you started this company with, because it's a level of trust and a level of expectation that you have of each other that I think is similar to being in a romantic relationship. It really is, and a level of commitment. So I guess the question was advice.
Best advice for that track?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
I would say the best advice is to have clear delineations of whose roles and responsibilities are whose, because I think that's something that made our lives very easy, is that we didn't have a lot of overlap, right? It was based on skill set. I was very good at certain things and he was very good at certain things, and so we just had a line in the sand, and it's like, all right, you tackle all these things and I'll do all of these, and that made it really nice because we weren't having to overlap each other a lot. But I'd say, what else?
Communication.
Yeah.
Like the big C, communication. My grandfather always taught me this, and it's like, no matter what, communication has to be clear, concise, and you got to be able to be vulnerable in that communication. So doing the work as a couple, but also in this individual, to show up, not just 100% like to get stuff done, but just like, how do you feel? Right? How do the things affect you? Like, we have our check-ins. We have to do check-ins and be like, hey, how are we doing? Like, really, like, this is just us. Everybody decide what's going on. If one of us is feeling out of sync or out of alignment, we both know that, and we have to get back in sync. Because if we're going to go our separate ways or be out of sync, everything else is going to be out of sync. So I think it's really important to have that communication and like really checking in consistently, to have that powerful way to attack the day, the week, the month.
Yeah. That's a huge one.
And are you guys operating like 24/7 as a sort of hybrid professional and romantic couple, or do you have clear start-stop points?
We don't.
AJ has clear start and stop points. I don't.
She doesn't like my clear stop and start moments sometimes, but it is right now. It's 24/7, right? It's like. We're in hustle mode, and we understand that there's a time to really hustle and push through forward, and then there's sometimes you're like, you know what, we need a break. This is not a sprint. This is a long-term thing that we're building here. So I
think we do really well is when we say, hey, this is the line in the sand. Yeah. We're now back to just us. Like yesterday, like I was buzzing. My head was ready to explode. It was like Wednesday at 10 a.m. I'd already worked 42 hours in the week. I was like, I'm going to murder somebody. And he was like, we need to go out on the boat. We need to go and wake surf. And I was like, I can't. I've got too many responsibilities. There's just too much to do. And he was like, we need to get outside. And so, that was the line in the sand. And then as soon as we're out there, it's like, okay, all cell phones away, all that stuff like is dead to us. And then we're able to be present and really be fully in the moment. So
and it takes that partner to say, "Hey, we need this. You need this. Like, let's do this together." That's that rejuvenation, right? So sometimes we need the reminders. And she's also, when I'm going too high, climbing too high up here in these ideas and like in this creative, she's like, "Hey,
I bring him down.
Come on back down here. Let's get that alignment, right?" And we do it. And then sometimes she can get so far down in the weeds, it's like, you're not seeing the big picture here. Let's get aligned. So it's that constant dance. I like to call it a dance, but it's like that realignment, communication, and then what you said earlier.
Yeah.
I think that's super, super important.
Yeah. And I think another thing that we do that's very unique is that we use travel as a way to force ourselves into the moment. So, like we had one year where we traveled 278 days of the year. This year we've already been to Europe for a month.
Yeah.
We're going back for 2 months. And we have built our entire company around the idea that everybody wants to be adventure driven and live their life to the fullest. And so all of our employees are remote. And we built that so that we could be remote. Yeah. And so we travel a lot, and that allows us to really step out of the business and live life and make sure that we're not having life pass us by, because I'm very goal oriented and I get very consumed by the business because it's my baby and I want it to thrive. And like I said, we're really driven by impact. And so it's sometimes hard for us to turn it off at the end of the day because we're so passionate about it. It's not a job to us. It is something that's bigger than us. And so when we travel, it helps us to put that line in the sand, because it's a little bit more of an opportunity cost when you're, outside of a fjord in Norway and you've got that one call where you're like, I could do it today or I could push it to tomorrow. But if I do it today, I'm going to miss seeing that fjord. It's like, okay, great. I'm going to force myself to have work-life balance by putting these, inexcusable experiences in front of us that we can't say no to. And that allows us to then say, all right, this is my time for work. This is my time for adventure and for love and for passion and for life. Mm-hmm. And it really forces balance.
We get more done in less time while we're traveling.
Oh, way more productive.
And because we're super excited, like, hey, let's get this done in 4 hours, and then let's go play on that castle. Let's go hike that fjord, whatever. And
hyper focused.
Like that laptop shuts, and we're in, like, everything's new. It's fun. So we have more profitability, more forced delegation to the team, and we keep growing whenever we go on these 60 to 90 day trips. So it's a part of our strategy as a couple and as business owners that, like, puts us in that mode. A lot of people think vacations it's like vacation mode. It's like a purposeful.
Because we're still working.
We're working remote, but it's like when we're here, work will fill the time that we allow it. And if we don't have those, those disciplines built into here, then we're just like, all right, we need to go.
And I have a very big problem with perfectionism and lack of trust. And those things together means that I will just do everything. And so when I'm international, I'm like, nope. Somebody else can do it, and if it's done 80%, it's better than me spending 2 hours doing it 100%. Yep. And so it really, really helps.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Can I add one more thing, or do you want to? Yeah. Do you have a question?
Well, so I've got tons.
Okay. Well, one other thing I was going to say is, like, early in our relationship, again, around that whole talk about self-development, is we took NLP together. So we went in and
which is neuro-linguistic programming.
Thank you. In neuro-linguistic programming, something I'd done before, but I wanted us to both go through it together. And we did, and we learned about how the brain and how communication styles differ from especially two minds that are very different. And that is, like, chunking up and chunking down. Meaghan's natural state is going to be chunked down, meaning more in the details, more in specifics. I'm going to be normally higher when I come from my communication. So sometimes I will come in the room, and because I've been having this conversation in my head, I think it's out loud, and I'll just, like, blurt something out.
He'll just be like, hey, they want to meet up Tuesday at 2. I'm sorry. Who specifically would like to meet Tuesday?
Or if I have an idea, I'm like, I've been in it for a couple of hours, like, here, and then she's like, I don't know.
So how specifically will this impact our business positively?
That's right? Our system. So she says, how specifically? So she's taking my chunked up nature and chunking me down so that we're back in alignment, and then I've got to do the same because she's so far in the weeds. I'm like, yeah, you need to walk me back through this because I don't understand.
He's like, how does that tie into this big thing?
Yeah, for what higher purpose? So we learn through NLP and a lot of other cool techniques how we as a couple can communicate better and work together. And I just feel like it's the work that couples, whether you're in business or not, should do together. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to add.
I think that's brilliant, and that's often the way, not just between, like, partners, but even as the founder of the business, conveying the ideas that are so clear in your head to, like, your staff and going, why don't you get this? Like, this isn't my. And Cameron Herold's Vivid Vision is a fantastic book. Resource there on that on that topic, as I'm sure you guys are aware in terms of, I'm like you, AJ, in terms of like, it's very, very clear in my head. I'm surrounded by whiteboards here, and I'm sketching things out. I'm very clear. I can plot the path, but you don't, just because you can doesn't necessarily mean other people get it. So let's switch briefly before we get into Praxis, and I want to hit that in great detail as well, Meaghan, detail. But just before we do that, the biohacking question, I'm curious, because like it's not every day you're speaking with people that we just went and got some brain scans for fun. Like what maybe one or two other things that maybe a bit unusual that have worked really well for you guys.
Where did that journey start? I mean,
well, I think the genetics is also another piece. Yeah. Like a lot of people hear about genetics and they think about 23andMe, which is not. That's not true. That it's not as valuable, right? That'll tell you your heritage, and that'll tell you if you sneeze when you walk out into sunlight. Like that doesn't really help change your lifestyle, right? And we're very much driven. Like biohacking to biohack is not our goal. Like it's time consuming. There's a lot of things that people do where it's like I just don't have time for that. We biohack for specific results, and so that we can have the data that we need to make better decisions in our lives that will yield better results, right? And so one of the big things that our question is like, what is our heritage? What are we pre-genetically dispositioned to, so that we can alter our lifestyle to turn our genetics on and off? Because there's this thing called epigenetics, where your lifestyle either triggers certain genetic profiles to pop up or to be subsided. Like you can have a genetic marker for Alzheimer's and not activate it if you don't eat saturated fat, right? It's like, well, that's actually super valuable to know. Yeah. So we went and got our genetics done and read by genetic coaches who can tie each genetic marker to the different effects that it has on your body, as well as the different actions you can take to turn it on or off.
Yep. So, and that's a great baseline. It's like, that's our data, that's our code. That's how we are human beings is coded, right? So we said, okay, genetically, we want to get that picture and clearly defined. Then there's the blood type, the blood work. And we're not talking about the checkup you get once or twice a year at the doctor's office. Like, no disrespect to them, but they're not going to be pulling the right data that you need.
Or the depth of data.
Or the depth. And so we're talking about 12 to 14 vials of blood sometimes when we go in, and I do it every 6 months. We're both on a 6-month pattern to be able to look at that. So genetics, blood work, and then...
Because it's all mixed together. All of this stuff individually does not tell you the picture. It's, again, bringing it back to data. Like
holistic.
You can have 7 pieces of data and have infinite interpretations of that. But if you have 7,000 pieces of data, you have a more robust picture of the reality of the situation, right? And genetics impact you, blood work impacts you, like your digestion impacts you. Like there could be, like you could have SIBO or a parasite and you have all these symptoms, and you wouldn't know that if you just got your genetics done, right? Yeah. And so all of these things just allow us to see a better picture of our holistic experience in this body, and then we're able to make adjustments accordingly. And then each 6 months we redo a lot of these things because, genetics don't change, but blood work does, and your lifestyle does. And so you can have a big difference in 6 months. Same thing, brain scans. Like I would recommend, we've only done it the once, but I would totally do it again to see if maybe I've had any improvement. That would be awesome.
There's different types of brain scans. SPECT scans, Dr. Amen. Love his work. So there's that. And then there's also, I was going to say, like DEXA scans, body fat, right? Yeah. Like understanding your body fat and what's going on. How do you sleep better? How do you, sleep is huge. We have to recover. As entrepreneurs, we love to push ourselves to the limits, but sleep is one of the most important things that is overlooked all the time. They wonder why they're tired and all that. So hacking your sleep, are you taking the right supplements? Most people, I will say 90% of the people are just taking stuff that does not matter because they're listening to marketing. I used to have a supplement company. I get it. But if you know your individualized self, then we're down to 5 and 6 supplements in our cabinet. That's it.
And they're ones that they're totally different for us. Yep. It's not like there's a one size fits all. Like AJ did whey protein for 8 years until we got all of this blood work and everything done and realized that he had an allergy to whey protein, which he'd been doing literally for 10 years.
Because all the magazines said so.
And here's the thing is there are supplements out there that for one person, it could change their life in such a positive way. And then somebody else could take it and they could die, right? I mean, there's two ends of the spectrum, and too many people just think that they can get any of these things. And if it's good for them, it's good for me. AJ and I are two separate beings with separate operating systems, like you saw with our brains. And in the beginning, we were doing everything together. We had the same diet. We had the same exercise. Like we were actually at the gym, like doing the same exercises together. Like, yeah, we're cute. We're doing
being healthy.
Yeah, we're being healthy.
We're a healthy couple. Yeah.
But we weren't doing the things that were optimal for our systems, right? Our, short twitch and long twitch fibers are different in our bodies. So I need a different exercise routine than he does, right? And at first we were like, oh, but we're not going to be working out together. Oh no, we're not as good of a couple. And it's like, no, but we're going to live 20 years longer, right? Yeah. And so I think and it's funny because we do look at this from a data perspective. Data in and of itself will never, ever be revolutionary. Data is simply points of individual data that aren't correlated at all. When you correlate them together, it creates information. And information pulls everything together into a robust picture. And from that, when you get enough pieces of information connected and you see the relationship between them, it leads you to knowledge. I now know how my body operates the best. I now know what I need to take in order to have certain results. And once you have enough knowledge, it turns into wisdom, which is the predictability aspect of it. So we're looking at this from health, but I'll tie it into data in a minute.
Yeah, I see the segue coming. Yeah. It's great.
So knowledge turns to wisdom when you can then forecast, right? So we know historically that when it rains, or that when temperature drops 15 degrees and humidity increases, yada, 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 and the clouds can no longer hold the weight, then it rains. Then the weather, the problem with predicting the weather is this wisdom jump, right? It's being able to correlate all of these pieces together. And that's why everybody says, oh, the weatherman doesn't know anything. It's just because they literally are not measuring enough data points. That's it. And then once you get to wisdom, you have perfect prediction. And then Praxis, actually the reason we named our company Praxis, is the practical application of knowledge and wisdom to change outcomes. So we do this in our health, like we measure all these pieces of data so that we can see how it all works together. And then we take that, we start split testing our lives. Hey, I'm going to start eating keto. I'm going to see the results from that, because if I do that, I get another piece of data, right? And so we start split testing, doing all these things, then seeing the results and then changing our lifestyle. And then we can predict, hey, we've got a wedding next year. In order for me to be at my fittest, I need to do X, Y, and Z before that, and then I'll be able to be at that point, right? Yep. Does that all make sense?
It made perfect sense. In fact, it made more than sense. It was perfect. It was music to my ears. It was perfect harmony and all the rest of the pleasant words combined. I could talk about this stuff, or rather listen to you guys talk about this stuff for a very, very long time. But as you alluded to, and I think this is a perfect setup, so I'm not going to miss the opportunity to start talking about Praxis, right? Clearly you guys live and breathe data, and quite rightly you should, right? You've proved time and time again that it leads to positive benefits in your life, and so not only do you practice what you preach in your own life, you're doing this for businesses. So tell us a little bit about Practice Metrics and what you do for your clients, who your clients are, and what that all looks like.
Wonderful. Well, our one tagline is we help you turn your data into growth. Mm-hmm. By far, that's like the highest level. But the majority of the clients we work with are e-commerce companies and companies that sell digital products, e-learning, authors, any of that
events,
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's our background, because we had a marketing agency, right? And it's also the sexy, what we call leading with revenue, is marketing ROI, right? Driving revenue as quickly as possible. But then, like Meaghan said before, we can bring all the pieces of data in together so that we can build a command center for the entrepreneur, for their team.
Yeah, because you think about today, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, big data was reserved for the enterprise, because they had the tools to collect these pieces of information that us as small business owners didn't have access to. Nowadays, with the blow up of SaaS companies and everything being digital, all of a sudden we have so much data on the back end of all of these systems, right? Our CRMs, our ESPs, our Google Analytics, all of the ad accounts, all of the social medias. like every company has those things. And then they've got this back end database that's connected to it. And everyone's like, now all of a sudden I have so much data, I don't know what to do with it. So the problem in society has changed as a business owner drastically. And now people are like, I've got the data, but how do I take action from it? Right? So that's the bridge that we gap, is we take all of that raw data that really doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything until you start putting the pieces together as to every other aspect of that client's journey, right? So I've got, even Shopify. A lot of our clients are on Shopify, and Shopify's got a little dashboard within it, but it's segmented to only the Shopify data. Yeah, you can integrate pieces of Amazon, you can integrate pieces of other things, but it's never going to integrate to all of your shipping platforms, your inventory platforms, your COGS, your cost of goods sold from your ERP, right? It'll do little itty bitty things here and there, but it won't do everything. And so what we do is we extract all of the raw data from every single system in the business, and that allows you to then put it all into one place. And when it's all in one place, it then allows us to see the patterns, the correlations, and those hidden, that network of information. And then we take that, and then we're able to apply, algorithms and formulas on top of it that allow us to then present this in a way that tells a story that is actionable. So we're able to see, hey, this client came from their awareness campaign was this Facebook ad. Then they entered into this email series. They got 12 emails. Then they ended up clicking on this mobile campaign. That's what actually led them to purchase. Attribution is a whole nother thing we won't get into right now. But once they purchase, the problem is those ad campaigns only see the data of that first purchase, right? They don't see what that client does for the next 2 years. And what if those clients are your raving fans and you didn't know that because the platform it only sees this far into the future? So what we do is we just take it all together, put it in a picture to where people that can then see what is working, what's not working. Where are those hidden areas of opportunity? Where are those areas of massive waste? Where can we just cut the spend here and there because it's not yielding revenue or it's not tied to revenue, or if it's not tied to awareness, or and then take and reallocate the same money into the things that are working. And that's where we see explosive growth. Like, we've got clients that, they come to us and they're like, oh, we're going to cut this funnel. It's just dead on cold media and paid media. And then we come in, we tie it all in together, and they're like, holy crap, we didn't realize that we actually have the budget to increase our allowable cost per acquisition on this channel because it's yielding lifetime value that is irrefutable. And then all of a sudden it goes from 15 sales a day to 350 sales a day, right? And it's 10 million in revenue, right, like that. Simple things that they already had, they just didn't have all the information, right?
Nice. And so I'm wondering if there's another scenario like that, where perhaps there's a client that you've helped in the past where perhaps something slightly unexpected happened, where maybe like that they had a traffic source that unexpectedly brought them profit, or a traffic source that they loved and actually it wasn't really doing much for them, or some kind of interesting story there. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I've got one.
You got one. Well, before you say that one, I think one of the problems we solve, that we like to say in the business that we're in, we're in the waste business. We're here to help reduce or eliminate wasted time, energy, or money. Because when we get rid of the waste that's going on, which, let's be real, like people say, oh no, there's not a waste. Yes, there's waste. But everybody wants to focus on optimize, all the good stuff. But when you cut the waste, that's actually getting you back to a baseline that is going to create even like lower costs, lower COGS, all that stuff. So we are here to eliminate waste first and foremost, and then we can optimize from there. So that may tee you up for what you're going to say.
Yeah, we've got this other client that they asked for one thing, and along that journey of us looking to expose that one thing, we actually found a very big problem. And this is a company that was spending, $50,000 a day on cold media. So we were going through, and we were actually looking to find their lifetime value of their customers. And along the journey, we also discovered that the reports that they'd all been doing manually and everything that they had been working on, that they were actually underestimating their costs on the ad side as well as on the COGS side. And so it was literally only like an 8% difference But because of that, what was happening is, it's a very simple formula. Once you know your numbers, if you know that, hey, we spend X amount to acquire the customer, it costs us to deliver, and then here's the profit here's the revenue that comes, here's the profit, you're just printing money at that point, right? We all know that, and that's the point where we want to get to. That's all numbers based. If any of those numbers are off, guess what? The whole formula doesn't work, and now you're burning money. So that was what was happening. By the time they came to us, they'd gone from spending $50,000 a day down to $30,000 in the month because they burned out all of their resources. And they thought it was because they didn't understand the lifetime value of the customers and all this stuff. And we were able to uncover that actually your calculation was taking into account this, this, and this, or wasn't taking into account this, this, and this. And here's 8% difference. And so, yeah, your allowable cost per acquisition was $15. It should have been $5, And so that was a huge problem within the organization that they had no idea. And they were so focused on this as like the solution, they forgot to go back and evaluate over here. So that's a negative. But I'd say that one where we were able to show that these customers were coming back and upselling. They were coming back and repurchasing. They were coming back and they were becoming raving fans for years. We were able to increase this company was able to increase their allowable cost per acquisition by $5. That's it. And it yielded, within the first 30 days, it yielded 350 sales a day on that funnel, one funnel. And then within 2 months, they got to 600 sales a day, right? And so that was a huge aha for them, because then it realized the power of data within the organization. And that was the one thing that they'd hired us to do in the beginning. And now they now have a full-time data scientist. They now have an entire database, and they are now moving up this spectrum of data maturity. And that's the problem that we see with a lot of companies is in the beginning, when you're an SMB or you're pre-10 million, you're like, I don't want to invest in this big data stuff. Oh, it's, we're good as it is. But the problem is, in order for you to scale every single company that we've worked with that wants to scale or that is scaling, all they did was they found that 10% of things that worked. They cut out everything else and they just went balls to the wall on that, right? They put everything they wanted into that and they cut the fat. And that's the interesting thing is in the beginning of companies, they want to do everything. They think that by solving all these problems or doing this and this and this, it's all working because it's all like a surface level, we're making money, but they don't realize that scale is simply cutting that and optimizing. So I'd say gosh, there's so many use cases.
Any other questions though?
Oh,
we've got.
Yeah, I'd say the other one, less of a revenue thing or
save
less
time.
The saving time, man. We've got clients that are paying human resources, really, really smart people to create these spreadsheets. They're like, oh no. The CMO wants to see his reports in this way. So he's the one who does this. The CFO wants to see his in this way, and he does it like this. And the amount of time that they're spending on all of this, if we come in and we're able to clear out 8 hours a week, an hour and a half a day, then all of a sudden their human capital just went through the roof. They now have people working they were literally doing data entry before. And now they're able to not only do their jobs in more capacity, 20% more per week, they're also able to do it with in-time data and better insights than they were able to do manually just because they were good at Excel.
And not to mention they're happier.
Yeah.
They knew they had to do those things, but like, this sucks. But now they're happier employees that are going to show up and they're getting alerts, or they're not having to be on, in this spreadsheet all day. So yeah, there's human capital increases for sure. Tremendously.
Huge wins. And so what does maybe the first few weeks of a new customer's journey with Praxis look like? So they've you've met them, you've assessed that they're a good fit, and presumably you have some sort of avatar or some kind of minimum threshold or something for a customer. Maybe we can get into that. What does that first sort of period of time with you guys look like? Like what is it that you're kind of looking for and doing for them in that early stage to get them set up?
Well, I think it's important to bring up here like our data maturity spectrum.
Yeah. We can share the screen too if you want.
Yeah. But for the people listening, it's basically, we work with companies at every stage. Like we work with companies that are doing 200,000 in revenue. In that beginning stage, I'd say between 200,000 in revenue up to about 2 million. Sometimes 5 or 10, depending on the maturity of the company. A lot of times, the number one thing that they need is data. It's like they don't even need somebody to analyze it. They just need something to be tracked. Because if you think about it this way, like we can't create data from scratch. So if your systems aren't turned on and operating properly, like Google Analytics, it's a free tool. Everybody has it. Nobody knows how to really use it. And so what happens is in that first stage of companies that are still small but growing, we help them. We've got a tracking team that specializes in how can we track as much as possible, even if they're not ready to analyze it. It's cheap for us to go in and just set things up for them, because if they go to us in 2 years and they have all of that in place, we're like, hey, we've got all of these insights we can instantly give you. If they come to us in 2 years and they're like, oh yeah, that wasn't turned on, like great, we got nothing. Like we can't interpret what doesn't exist. And so the first phase is, depending on the company's, maturity, is typically making sure that they have data and tracking. Then there's usually a point where they cross that threshold and now they're into the spreadsheet hell, or they want these insights. They've read that blog. They know they need to be tracking, CAC to LTV ratios. They need to be doing X, Y, and Z. They're like, I need that. I don't have the time to create the spreadsheets. Can you guys build this out for us? So we call that kind of the automation phase. They want us to automate and systematize the connections between all of the different systems.
And that includes validation, making sure that you can trust your data. Accuracy is everything. Pretty charts doesn't matter unless the data is accurate. So we make sure that is our first and foremost thing, is validation in this stage. Yeah.
So what we'll do during that stage is we've actually worked, with Praxis metrics starting even 5 years ago, SMBs were not really asking for data. It wasn't as mainstream as it is now. And so we were working with much larger companies in the beginning. But what we found is they're all asking the exact same things as all of our entrepreneurial friends. It's all the same stuff. What's working? What's not working? Where should I spend more money? Where should I cut money? That's pretty much it on the client acquisition side, right? And so what we did is with each implementation that we did custom for all of these huge organizations, we learned from them on the KPIs and the formulas and the questions they were asking, and we basically prepackaged those so that we can bring them down market to the companies that are doing, 2 million to 40 million. They can get those big data insights without having to build it from scratch.
And without having to pay the big data costs.
Yeah.
Right.
So
we've gone and done the thinking for them. So they're not showing up because I want to delineate this part. There's a lot of technologies out there, fantastic platforms, the Lookers, the Domos, the Power BIs and all that. And people like to look to a tool to be the solution, but it's not, right? Those are great platforms to be able to help do similar things, but you still need data scientists, dashboard engineer, API people. You still need to have somebody that knows how to be data driven and how to actually do the work. Right. Mm-hmm. So that gets into hiring people and all this other stuff. The platform just says, here you go have fun, play. It's self-service.
But you still have to build.
Still have to build all this stuff. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, well, then I'll just hire my bookkeeper or my admin person. You're going to go learn this thing. It's like, really? No, you don't just watch a YouTube video and be able to do it. Yeah. So that's a big thing to let people know. Like, we're not just a platform, we're actually a team of data scientists and dashboard engineers that helps walk you through how to understand to be data driven. And we've pre-thought ahead on the most important metrics that e-commerce companies at each stage need to focus on. So not these 100, but these 5. And if you start here, you're going to grow your company exponentially, and then we can always get into all these other things. So that's what we're all about, is like taking that knowledge and expertise in the industry and say, focus here first. Don't worry about the other things. Mm-hmm. And now we can help your company grow faster.
Yeah. So in that automation, I
was going to say,
in that automation stage, go. Oh. Go ahead.
You too.
Sorry to go. You go. What I was interested to learn is, so in terms of let's focus on e-commerce for a second. You said you don't need to work on all of these different metrics. It's really just these 5. What would you say is 3 regularly reoccurring metrics that you frequently see prioritize less than they should be?
I would say the 3 all interact together. I'd say number 1 is the customer acquisition cost, but breaking it down by channel. Number two is and these two you have to have both of them in order to get the true insights. I'd say lifetime value of customers is something that in today's world is extremely difficult because most e-commerce companies are omni-channel. They have their Shopify store. They're also on Amazon. They might also be on ClickBank or Rakuten or one of these affiliate platforms, right? And so they've got income coming in from all over the place. Or they could also have a separate site that has just Stripe payments, or, then it goes through PayPal, right? And so what happens is they have to log into each of these systems, and it's not only frustrating from the business owner standpoint, but from the consumer standpoint. Imagine that the consumer came on, ordered twice from Shopify, went and ordered on Amazon 3 more times, and then came back to Shopify, right? In your head as the business owner, those are 2 separate purchasers, 2 separate consumers. One has an LTV of $100, one has an LTV of $80. But you didn't realize that that's one customer with an LTV of $180. That changes everything, right? So LTV, true LTV, is combining every single purchase from that client, whether it's your products, whether it's affiliate products, and no matter where it was, right? So combining that all together, I'd say that is important. And then the ratio between those two is very important because it gives you the allowable cost per acquisition by channel, right? And then I would say the other thing is a lot of people just don't do well at understanding, like today's model is moving more towards continuity models, subscription boxes, things like that. And a lot of people come to us and ask for, and this is a clear definition of the business mind versus a data scientist mind. So a business owner is going to say, hey, I want to know what my average my average subscription length is. That's a pretty important thing for us to know. My next question, or our team's next question, is always, so what action would you take if you knew that number? They're like, well, if I know that, we've got clients that are staying on for 5 years, so our average is 2.5 years, that's just really good to know, right? We're like, but what action? What will you do? Knowing it 2.5 years, are you going to go implement an autoresponder at 2.5 years? Are you going to go try a retargeting campaign or a nurturing sequence? And they're like, well, no. It's like, okay, so it's not tied to action. So let's reframe this. Instead of that, why don't we do a cohort analysis, which is simply a grouping, and showing you the number of days that they're with you and at what point in these number of days has the most cancellations. They're like, interesting. So now what we're doing is we're showing like a bell curve. Imagine a bell curve, and we've got, day 0 has 9% of all of your cancellations. And then it drops off. Day 1 only has 1%. Day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5 ramp up. And at day 7, we have 8% of our cancellations happen there, right? So even though our average subscription length is 2.5 years, we are having 40% of all of our cancellations happen in the first 10 days. So if you reduce that cancellation rate within those first 10 days, it will naturally improve and lengthen the average subscription, right? So now we have an action plan. Now we know that on day 0, we need to go and see why they're canceling. So we're going to implement a survey. In order for them to cancel, they have to answer why they're canceling. Are they gamifying the system to get the subscription discount? Are they wanting to change their subscription? Well, on day 0, it's usually, are they gamifying it? Like they just wanted the discount. Number 2 is that they clicked it by accident and they actually just wanted a one-time order, right? Or they ordered the wrong product or whatever it may be. But on day 7, they're canceling for a different reason, right? And so now we're able to see why they canceled. So we're able to reduce. We're able to see which products have the most cancellation rates on those dates. And we've had clients, oh my gosh, we've had clients have systems in place. It's so sad, where the systems and these programs have these automatic emails that go out to the clients, and the company did not know these emails were being sent to their end customers. So we had one client that on day 51, it was this random friggin' day, they had like 16% of their cancellations happening on that day.
Didn't know.
We're like, what is happening? And so we walked through, here's the list of 300 people that canceled on day 51. And they walked through each and every one of them, and they figured out that there was an automated email that was going out reminding them that they were on subscription or something from this one system. And they turned off that email, and instantly, all of a sudden, all of those cancellations went away. you know? So there's so many different things that you can see when you're starting to track the right metrics. So I think days to cancellation is really important if you're in the recurring model business. And then I'd say the other thing is COGS, man. Most people do not have a handle on their costs, and I mean down to shipping costs. Do you know the shipping per product? Most people don't, because they can't reverse engineer the total lump sum shipping costs back down to each individual purchase based on weight, size, all of that. And so what we do is we're able to programmatically do that because we're not doing it in Excel. It's all done in this robust system that can handle all these calculations. And so we're able to give daily profitability per individual shipment, right? And those are things that are just game changer for e-commerce.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, I was already a convert anyway, but this is the information that absolutely everybody needs. Like, and I don't mean needs like, oh, you kind of want it. It's like it's like essential day one. And my story with my last brand, it was a 7-figure brand, and I had a VA. And she had to fill out this Google sheet which had all these different metrics on it from different locations, and part of her task was to log into all of these different locations and fill out this Google sheet so that when I woke up and started work, I had it ready for me on the day, which was great. But that was definitely me paying someone to do that, and there were certainly days where she didn't input it, and there was certainly, the weekend it was sketchier, and there was definitely no analysis of it, and it was just a spreadsheet, right? So it was, as valuable as that was, if I would have had access to, another level of that and the actual insights into it, as well as, frankly, other sets of eyes analysing it and seeing it, game changer, like you said. So whereabouts can what URL can people go to learn a little bit more about Praxis?
Yeah, we've got some great content, and you can talk to one of our data experts at praxismetrics.com. That's Praxis, and then metrics, metrics.com. Pretty simple. We've got a great blog there. You can also join us on the Facebook group, but website's got everything there.
Yeah.
Nice. Right. Quick fire question round, folks. You excited?
Ooh, quick fire. Yeah. Let's do this.
Right. I'll ask it quickly. You can take as long as you want, but we're going to go bam, bam, bam. You can both answer or take it in turns, or however you love birds decide. Do you want to cut it up? I'm down. All right, we good?
Good.
Four thumbs up. Yeah. For those of you listening, that's weird, but for those of you watching, you know what happened. Right. Let's go. Are there any unusual things you eat or drink regularly, and why?
I eat weird foods.
Unusual.
I don't know. Unusual. I don't know. Do you have one?
I love pickle juice.
Oh, God, that's the worst.
Yeah.
No.
So I have a problem with dehydration, and I never drink enough water. AJ literally has to stand over me with water, and he'll put it down, and then I won't drink it. I'm like the girl from, what was that movie with the aliens where there's water glasses everywhere? Anyway. So I never drink water, and so I get super dehydrated, and pickle juice helps you kind of replenish your cells internally, and it allows the cells to open up to absorb the water. And so anytime I'm feeling dehydrated, I just go in and I literally just drink pickle juice right out of the jar, and AJ hates pickles.
Wow. Is that a similar sort of thing to like cider vinegar? The similar sort of effect?
Yes,
correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Pickle juice.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you get yourself into a state of flow?
Do hypnosis. We have an app that we love to use called Primed Mind.
It's amazing.
And it's amazing. And so like I'm talking about morning, daytime, at nighttime, Elliot, another one of our British friends, his amazing voice like gets us in a trance. And so in the mornings it's getting that, going deep into the unconscious and like getting ready for the day. And then for me it is that journaling and like writing down my goals.
Nice.
That gets me in the flow state.
Nice. Do you have anything?
Cocaine. No, I'm just kidding.
Going out and smashing
high amounts of cocaine.
That's the opposite of flow state. No, I said that because we always joke that I'm just like never in. I'm just never in flow. I always get in flow. I'm just like a hyperactive flow where I'm just like, ding, 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 we're going to do all of the things. So wake surfing gets me into flow. Anything. I really like solo sports.
Literally, yeah.
Literally wake surfing and then snowboarding. Anything outdoors. That's what gets me in the flow.
Nice, like that. What habit or opinion do you have that other people tend to disagree with?
Most people disagree with me, so I'm a contrarian. Say the question again.
Yeah.
What habit or opinion do you have that other people tend to disagree with?
Great question.
Habit or opinion.
Mine is like that people are the most important resource on the planet.
And mine is that I am the most important person and resource on the planet.
That's good. In mine, it's like more like people think money or time, but I'm like, my grandfather taught me like people. I mean, there's I don't know, 7 to 8 billion of us, that people are our most important asset. And I've had discussions between the two. It's like, I don't care if I'm right or wrong. It's just, that's one that people will sometimes challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And then Meaghan thinks
I'm the one who challenges it. I'm like, I can do it all. Watch me. I dare you.
Love that. If you ran a school but could only teach one non-traditional lesson, what would that be?
Go ahead.
Megan's like, yours.
I would teach people. I would teach people like the basics of like starting with data, like getting an instruction manual for who you are. So the genetics, the blood work, and like, let's not call it biohacking, but just simply getting an instruction manual on who you are as a human being and starting as the foundation. That I think is more important, and teaching people how to think, not what to think.
Mine would be time travel.
Teach
but
them.
I don't know if that counts here.
If you could teach it.
Oh yeah, I would love to.
One of our first dates was going into quantum mechanics and quantum physics just because it was fun. And that was mainly her topic of like, let's talk about this.
Yeah. So yeah, like I would say quantum physics would be just awesome.
Yeah.
To teach kids. Yeah.
Wow, like that. So I mean, at first I thought you were joking. Now I realize that you're not joking. So literally like teaching the physics behind, if we could time travel, this is how we would do it.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's serious.
Yeah, that would be so fun. Like that's the stuff that like just gets me so excited.
When we're hanging out in London next month, we're going into that, and the school will be in session as per the question.
Yeah.
Deal.
What book had the biggest impact on your life?
I Dare You by William Danforth when I was younger, and more recently, The One Thing by Jay Papasan and Gary Keller.
Yeah. For me, The One Thing was a pivotal book in my life because I was highly unproductive. I am a natural procrastinator, hardcore. I was always really smart, which meant that I could, wait until the night before the 40-page essay was due. I'd crank it out in a couple hours and I'd still get an A. So I was just encouraged to be more of a procrastinator.
It's a curse, isn't it?
And
just smartness.
It is.
It's just a curse. Yeah. Sorry, Kara.
But I definitely, it definitely then transferred over into my business life where I would just not work some days, and I would be out wake surfing every day, and I'd be like, I wonder why I have no money. And so when I read the One Thing, it was just it was written in such a logical format where it was structured and it was step by step. Here's the procedures and the habits that you need to form in order to be productive. It's like, oh, great. So it changed my entire personality. So that was a really watershed book for me. And then the other one would be The Power of Now. Because I don't know if you could tell, but I'm kind of a detailed person, but I'm very type A, driver mentality. And so I don't really take the time to breathe and do the meditations and the journaling. That's just not my natural state. And so The Power of Now, just the same thing. Like within the book, he forces you to take deep breaths and do these exercises to become present with right now. So he has this weird little squiggly, like made up symbol. And every time you see that, you have to do this thing. And it's the first time I'd had a book where it was like, as I was reading it, I was growing and developing and really understanding. And then the one on top of that is Letting Go.
Together, reading Letting Go by David Hawkins. Amazing book.
Man, that one was powerful. Yeah. Same thing, I think. So what it does is he puts together a map of consciousness, a logarithmic scale of the different vibrational frequencies that we are, kind of resonating at when we're in different emotional states. So shame is like the lowest vibrational frequency. And then there's guilt, and then there's sadness and sorrow, and then there's anger and frustration, and then there's neutrality. And then again, it goes through and it helps you understand, like, in different areas of your life when you go into those stages of courage. And right. So AJ, like when we met, I was very much in just anger. Anger's very comfortable for me. I just get angry at everything. AJ is very neutral, which is like 3 stages above me. He just like is super cool, super chill, like very And so he would pull me up, and same thing with his entrepreneur background. He would pull me from anger, which is a motivation state. Everything below anger is like sadness and depression and fear and guilt, and that's all sedentary. When you're depressed, you don't want to move. You don't want to go. When you're angry, you're like, screw you. I'm going to be successful in spite you, right? So that's kind of where I was. I was in the movement stage, but he brought me into courage. And courage brought me out of fear, because courage is stepping into the unknown willingly and with this sense of purpose and excitement, rather than, this away from motivation towards motivation. And then I'm still working on getting to neutrality. Definitely not a neutral person. Not yet. I'm working on it though. And so that's the great thing about letting go, is you can read it at different stages in life, and you get totally different things out of it. Cause I can't even relate. Like the first 10, like I'd say 6 chapters of the book, I'm like, oh, I got you. Oh yeah, I've seen you. I've been there. And then after that, I'm like, oh, I don't even relate to this, because I'm just not there yet. And so as you develop and grow through life, it meets you where you are, and you can always come back and get more out of it.
Phenomenal. But I love it when we get great book recommendations, particularly when I've not heard of them, and they're solid, guys. They're real solid book recommendations. Thank you. What does the first 30 to 60 minutes of your days look like? We're talking about routines, things like that.
First 30 seconds in my head, I'm
30 minutes.
30 minutes? Mm-hmm. Oh, 30 minutes.
30 seconds, it's like yawning and being like, oh. Yeah, so I imagine. So,
well, I'm immediately looking at the 3 things I'm grateful for that day. So the gratitude practice, showering, like they do that, cold shower, just get up and running, and then getting to meditation and journaling as quickly as possible. So we used to work out in the morning, but like now it's not. That's more in the afternoon kind of thing. But for me, 30 minutes is like being in my head and getting ready for the day and starting with gratitude.
Yeah, mine used to be working out, and I've replaced it with just work. I'm not as good of an example as AJ, so we can just edit out my answer. But mine,
the truth.
I mean, the truth is, I wake up and I immediately look at my emails, like while I'm still in bed, which is like the most negative thing that you can do. But I look at that,
right now it is.
and then I compare it to my calendar, because my calendar is pretty booked. Like, it's pretty solid. And I live, eat, and breathe by my calendar. So that's the first 2 things. I look at the emails that are out, like that have come in, because I usually end every single day with 0 inbox. And so anything that's coming after that, it helps me set the tone for where I need to squeeze in those action items throughout the day. So I just dive right into it, and then I typically don't even. I typically start working instantly. My great time is in the morning to get things done. That's when I'm the most productive and hyper-focused. So I typically have all of the important stuff right as soon as the get-go happens. And then in the afternoon is when I'll do more of the tedious things, or the internal team calls. Like, so I want to do all of my client stuff and all of my heavy thinking right in the morning. And then that way I'm only working on operations and emails and things like that later on.
And what time do your days start? Like, what time do you wake up?
Man, we
7?
used to be like 6:30, but since our last trip to Europe, we've been like sleeping in. So we usually set the alarm for 7. He gets up, he does his thing. I usually take about 15 minutes longer. Otherwise, nobody's happy. And so I'll usually stay in bed for 15 minutes, but like look at the phone, plan out everything, and then I'll hop up, and then AJ always makes me tea or coffee in the morning. And then I get up and I drink my keto thing, and then he intermittent fasts. So we usually just get into it.
Nice. Any advice for your previous boss or bosses in general?
AJ's never had one.
I've never had any.
He's only ever reported to himself.
I've had some internships. But I would say learn your team members at a behavioral level. understanding who they are, what they really want, but like also understanding their behaviors other than just personality stuff. Like what makes them tick, but what are they naturally inclined to go do, and matching that to the job description.
Nice. That's very Ray Dalio-esque in the answer there.
Mm-hmm.
What is yours?
I have two answers, and I think they're both not what you're looking for.
Go for it.
One of them is I'm sorry, because when I was working, I just wasn't as productive. When I worked for other people, I didn't have that intrinsic motivation because I wasn't connected to the job. So I just don't feel like I ever lived up to my truest potential while working underneath somebody. I think that that being an entrepreneur has really brought out different skill sets and abilities than I ever had before. So I think the number one thing is I'm sorry. Number two thing is, I guess, just thanks for the opportunities, because I feel like every opportunity in life has led me to where I am today, and I've had incredible knowledge and experience from those jobs that help me in random situations. I'll be on a call with a client, and it's like, wow, that unique thing that I thought was just not valuable at the time is now come full circle, so just thank you for the opportunity. And then advice to them. I'd say invest in your people, like give them the tools they need to be successful, because all I needed was the coaching in the right direction in order to unleash my truest potential. And I don't think that I had anybody that really invested that as deeply into me as I've invested into myself. And obviously you can only impact somebody to the exact degree and willingness to which they're willing to impact themselves. So, some people just aren't open to that, but I would say that's always helpful. Any of my, historical bosses that I know, like I remember and love, are the ones that invested in me and really, really challenged me to live up to my potential.
Like that. Where do you go, or what do you do to get inspired?
Well, Meaghan inspires me every day, honestly. Like she is a lot of my inspiration from like, if it's a daily thing, I just love being around her and even just listening to her. So like from business or personal, like we're always learning from each other. So Meaghan for me, and then nature, got to be outside, whether it's by water or not. It's nature. And then thirdly, it's like our trips. We get so much inspiration and so excited, even if we're not there yet. Just like the planning, she's so good at planning our trips out. And then she's like, hey, come check this out. Of course it is. And like, it's just inspiration from like, ooh, we're adventure partners first. That's what we like to say, is like adventure partners. But the adventures that are coming up is like our inspiration.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say mine's similar. Numbers really inspire me. I'm a very data-driven person. Like numbers, like when the numbers align, and when we're looking at like goals or opportunities, like even like on the scale, it's like those numbers, like the improvements, the differences, like those really get me excited. I've always been that way. Like where if I can check things off and if I can see it all aligning, that really inspires me. And then nature for sure. Like we're not as much, like we love being in the city. Like we love having opportunities to go and socialize and things like that. But when we're out in nature and experiencing that true awe and wonder of the planet and of, just our solar system, like it's just, it makes us just that much more in tune with living our fullest life and really, really putting our best foot forward. Right. And we just feel connected.
Brilliant answer. If I gave you $5,000, how would you double it in 24 hours?
What time period is this? Right now, today?
Yeah.
If it was 6 months ago, I'd say crypto. 5,000.
5,000 and do double it?
Mm-hmm.
In 24 hours, you said?
Mm-hmm.
I'd go grab Mike's boat and go start charging and us teach people wake surfing.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is the best wake surfing teacher I've ever met. We have a 100% success ratio of people coming on the boat with their friends and like teaching them. I'm a great driver. I give my coaching in there, but we could like charge a high fee, have inspirational NLP coaching, have a great time, and you're gonna learn how to wake surf. We could probably double, triple that like pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'd say same thing. Like, we could just take that money and then just go and put up an ad or something of being like, hey, the first 10 people get $1,000, $1,000, and you can spend a whole day with us, and just pipe it out to a couple things. And I think I think we'd easily
It'd
do
be
that.
fun. That would
Maybe
be
we should
really
just
fun.
do that.
Yeah.
I'll give you my bank
Why have we not done this?
I'll give you my banking information afterwards, and then we'll go make this happen.
Definitely.
Make that a case study.
Yeah, I like that. What's the best advice ever given to you?
I know mine.
Good.
So my one of my mentors told me, at that procrastination stage in life where it was getting in the way of my business, he told me, he was like, it's kind of a knife in the chest, but he was like, you have no integrity.
Woo.
I was like, ooh. I was like, how dare you? I was offended at first. I was really angry, and I was
the
like,
anger level, yeah.
yeah, straight to anger. And he was like, you have no integrity. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm an honest person. I like do good deeds, and he was like, that has nothing to do with integrity. Integrity is not those things at all. He said, integrity is doing the things that you say you're going to do when nobody's around. And he's like, so show me your time, or show me your checkbook and show me your calendar, and I'll tell you what type of person you are. And he's like, where your money goes and where your time goes are those things that are important to you. And you're telling me that these 10 things are important to you, and yet you're not spending any time or money on them, right? All of your time is going to your friends. All of your money is going to being out on the lake. All of these things are not in congruence with what you're saying is important to you. And so you need to look at your schedule and your checkbook, and you need to define who you are based on those two things. And I was like, oh no, I am like a Netflix addict, and I'm basically like just a lazy person who's a really good friend. Because on my calendar, I did a 2-week time audit, and within 2 weeks, I'd driven 3 people to the airport and 2 people to their doctor's appointments. And it each time it was like a 2-hour thing. And I was thinking I was being a good friend, but I was just trying to avoid, work. And he was just like, all right, great. Then your friends are more important to you than your career. This is more important to you than this. And it's like, oh yeah, I say I volunteer. I say that I care about, the less fortunate. And in the last 2 weeks, did I actually go and do anything, either monetarily or with my time, to help those people? I was like, no, And so that was a big aha for me. And that was the biggest advice that he gave me, was at any point, your calendar and your money needs to align with your priorities in life.
AJ, you've
followed
that, mate. Follow that. Boom.
It's very simple. I was mic drop. Thanks, Meaghan. But I do love that one. It's so true. It's such a good reminder. Mine was my grandfather. Always, number one, he was an example. So it's not just what he said, but it's like he treated the garbage man who picked up his garbage the same as the CEO he worked with. He loved people intimately and really cared, and he passed that down to me by saying, look, everybody you come across in your life is there for a purpose. It's something that came into your realm. So always focus on leaving that person better than when you met them. Maybe that means giving them the shirt off your back if you do that, or just like maybe a word or a smile, as simple as that, but helping make sure, if you just focus on kind of each interaction, lifting people up and leaving them in a better place, then you have a great life.
Like that. Wow. Powerful answers.
Take that.
Another blow back. What silly thing should people do more of?
Laugh at themselves. Dance. Dance however the hell you want.
Yeah.
No matter who's looking. I do it. I've been doing it a lot more. She laughs.
Oh, I laugh at him. Yes, not with him.
I like to hip thrust for some reason.
Yeah, his dance move just consists of hip thrust.
Sort of like Quagmire would dance.
And lunging.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
I don't care. I like to lunge. I like to stretch.
Yeah, he
I like to move
lunges
my hips a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's the only part of him moving. It's very bizarre. I would agree, though, the dancing. Like, there's nothing like just letting the music flow through you and just releasing that way. And so we do it a lot. We like to turn on the music and get down.
Get down. Nice. Would you rather fight 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
One large duck horse thing.
Wrong. I would do the the mini horses. You could just kick them.
I want to ride it. I want to ride that thing. So I would say, yeah, we're just different.
No, you're fighting it. It's your enemy. This is not your friend.
I would conquer it and become my friend.
You probably would. He can win over anybody. You probably would. Yeah. No, I would be like, I am the god, and I would just like stomp through like a giant, like, you peons.
You duck horses.
I have a problem with the ego, if you couldn't tell. Yeah, I'm the ego, he's the id.
Fantastic. Both great answers, and there's clearly no right or wrong answer. How would you convince someone to do something good that they didn't want to do?
Chunk up.
Yeah, chunk up. Right? Really hit like for what higher purpose, like really identify how that really ties into what would ultimately serve them best.
Yeah, because a lot of times, and this happens in management too. It's like you have to figure out, here's this one little thing that somebody doesn't want to do, even if it's good for them. But if you can align with them on a higher purpose that does align with them, because there's a lot of little things that they could do to get there. But if you can chunk up and you can both find a level where you do see eye to eye, then tie that back down to that, then a lot of times you can overcome that. I would say just chunk up.
Fantastic. And then the final question, apart from each other, what makes you happiest?
Ice cream and wine. No. I would say new adventures. There's literal chemistry that happens in your brain when you're able to experience new things. And so whether it's, a new class that we're taking or a new, experience that we're having or a new site that we're seeing, I'm almost addicted to that. And the static really becomes draining to me. And so I just love experiencing new things, whether it's a new dance, whether it's a new, city or country, or I don't know, anything new just gets me really, really happy.
I'll agree with that, but I'll also add in, I love meeting new, incredible people. I just love connecting with people. So it's like the adventure side, but just in the people part of it.
Perfect. Guys, you've been absolutely phenomenal. Thoroughly enjoyed myself. At this point, have you got any asks or requests of the audience?
Ooh. Well, this has been a lot of fun. It's fun to go down some of these different holes, right? It's not all about business. It's about life and the journeys. So this has been a lot of fun. When it comes to an ask of your audience, we really want to help serve and help your audience grow. We're here to make impact and help companies do the hockey stick thing faster. So reaching out to us, honestly, if you have questions, we want to do webinars. We want to give free information away. We want to really, truly understand what your biggest pain points are and problems are. So connect with us on the website. Literally just fill out the form and get on a call with us. Mm-hmm. We also get on the calls. We also have our sales team and all that, but we're here to first and foremost to educate. So if you're having problems right now with tracking or data or even, traveling life hack advice stuff, we love to reach out to us on our Instagrams, our Facebooks, and our website. We love to help. So I just say ask us, come up with one of your most interesting questions and shoot us an email or hit us up on social media.
I would say the same. It's there's I just realized that it's never too early to start with the data's not going anywhere. It's only going to become more relevant. And the problem is if you're not looking at your own data, your competitors are, and they're going to get those insights and they're going to scale. And because you don't know what they know, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah. And it's not your fault if you failed math class or you're not a data scientist. That's okay. Don't worry about it. You don't have to become one of those things.
Yeah.
But there's companies like us that exist. There's other companies out there too. Ours is better. But, that understand how to think data-driven and help you see through this maze and help you and your employees reach their goals.
Yeah. So I would say that I beg you to please make sure that you've got all the tracking in place, Google Analytics is set up right. And even if you're not ready to do everything else, and then just reach out if you've got questions. And then I genuinely say, reach out to AJ. He absolutely loves people, and we want more friends all over the world, you know? And so, and we're the type of people that will come and visit, we'll come and just pop by because we're, 3 countries over. So, so reach out because AJ just loves meeting new people and having new conversations, and we love new experiences. So reach out.
Amazing. Well, guys, the power couple, Meaghan and AJ, thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been absolutely fascinating delving into your lives and the whys behind your decisions and seeing your journey. You guys are so good together. 1 + 1 = 77. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It was so much fun.